First of all, thank you. Got it. First of all, thank you guys so much for joining us today. So I am Sabrina Wright Hobart. I am the development coordinator with the Crisis Center. And joining me today is Jordan Noel, and she is the client navigator for the Crisis Center. And we'll go into more about the Crisis Center later, but today what we really want to talk about in honor of Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, we want to talk about teen dating violence awareness, how to recognize the signs and get help. So first, I want to thank the Health and Wellness Group. They are hosting this presentation today, so really appreciate them and all of their efforts. And especially a thank you to the South Metro Denver Chamber of Commerce. We love being members of this chamber and for this opportunity. So, the topic and content of today's conversation, it can be triggering for some people. So, practice self-care and reach out to our crisis line at 303-688-8484 if you need support. All right. So, and just a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So Nick is going to be kind of monitoring any questions for us. So we'll have an opportunity to answer some questions and have some reflection at the end. But yeah, feel free to just put your question in the chat box when it comes up, and we will address that. So, all right. So today, it is our hope that by attending today's presentation that you're going to learn about the prevalence of intimate partner violence in teens, differentiate between healthy, unhealthy, and abusive relationships, understand consent and how to speak to youth about it, learn what domestic violence is, understand the dynamics of domestic violence and trauma response, learn the consequences of domestic violence for youth, learn how to recognize the signs and how to help, and also how to access resources.
Yeah, so I'm going to start us off with some statistics. So about 81% of parents don't believe that teen dating violence is an issue. So if parents don't see and acknowledge the issue, then our teens don't acknowledge or recognize it as well. So that's kind of why we're here today, to kind of talk more about dating violence as it relates to teens, and how to have conversations about healthy relationships and where to find help if our teens feel that they're in an unhealthy relationship. So about 1 in 3 adolescents in the United States is a victim of physical, sexual, emotional, or verbal abuse from a dating partner. And then nearly 1 in 11 female teens and 1 in 15 male teens have reported experiencing physical dating violence in the last year. And then about 1 in 9 female students and 1 in 36 male students have reported.
Oh, I didn't do that. I didn't touch it. Can you go back, Nick? Okay, and then go forward. There we go.
There we go.
I promise
Okay.
I didn't touch anything.
So about 1 in 9 female high school students and 1 in 36 male high school students have reported experiencing sexual dating violence in the last year. And then kind of overall, 26% of women and 15% of men say that they've experienced intimate partner violence before the age of 18. So this is a graphic that just kind of looks at healthy relationships versus unhealthy and abusive relationships. It's the relationship spectrum. So we know that not all relationships are going to be healthy 100% of the time. But this image kind of helps us visually see what might be an unhealthy trait so that we can kind of question that behavior or have discussions about the behavior and address problems before it becomes abusive. So for example, we want to have kind of open and honest communication, not be secretive. And we want communication that is not harmful. sorry, once there becomes kind of a lack of unhealthy or a lack of communication, then it can kind of become into harmful and threatening communication. So this just kind of helps us look at what is unhealthy and how to kind of address that or look into that before it becomes abusive. So like focusing on communication and respect and being trustful, honest, having the relationship be equal, enjoying personal time, so time apart from our partner, but also enjoying time with our partner, making decisions together, and then of course the kind of economic and financial piece, which I'll kind of go into a little bit further in the next slide.
You ready?
Yes. So this is our teen equality wheel. So this is just another tool that we use to better understand healthy behaviors, or I guess see the healthy behaviors that we want in our relationships. So first looking at kind of negotiation and fairness. So doing things equally, not forcing our partners to do only what we want to do, or doing things only we want to do and not doing things that also our partner enjoys to do. And then expecting everything being done for us and not kind of reciprocating that. Then looking at non-threatening behavior. So we want to be able to have an environment where each partner kind of feels secure and safe to be who they are and express their own needs, feelings, and opinions. Then looking at respect, so listening and supporting each other, valuing each other's opinions, trust and support, supporting each other in our goals, and understanding and respecting that our partner has hobbies and friends and family outside of our relationship. Then communication, being open and truthful, so not being fearful that your partner is going to become angry. And a good example of this is like if I wanted to go to a movie with my friend and her boyfriend, but my boyfriend doesn't want to see that movie. So says like, oh, I don't want to see that, so you shouldn't see that either. But I want to see the movie, so I decide that I'm going to go see that movie. An unhealthy relationship would kind of look like him being upset with me that I chose to go to the movies without him, giving me the silent treatment, calling me names, making me feel bad for choosing to do that without him. But then when you look at a more healthy or equal relationship, my partner can still be kind of upset with me that I went and I did this without him, but he can also respect my decision that I wanted to hang out with my friends and do something that I wanted to do. Then looking at,
oh, I'm so sorry. Nick, can you go back? I'm sorry.
so then kind of looking at intimacy. So creating a safe place where each partner can say no if they don't want to engage in sex or sexual activities. And they don't feel pressured into doing those things. And then of course, being able to use protection as well. And then shared responsibility. So accepting responsibility for yourself and acknowledging when maybe you might have acted out of line, or maybe you said hurtful things, and then taking accountability for that. And then the economic partnership piece, I think that's something that's not really talked about much in teen dating relationships. But teenagers, they're getting their first jobs, they're getting cars, they're having to pay for things, pay for gas. So it's really important that not all of the financial responsibilities are being put on one partner. So it's important that one partner is not the one who always drives to places or always pays for meals or always pays for movie tickets. Really that they're not being taken advantage of economically, and both partners are kind of taking care of things together. So now we'll kind of look at this video. This video is 2 minutes that will change the way you think about consent. It just kind of looks at consent a little bit deeper by kind of following someone who's trying to figure out what consent is. So after the video, we'll kind of talk a little bit more about it.
Having trouble, Nick? No.
Hi,
There
I'm
we
here and I'm trying to figure out what consent really is and how to get it right. Hey, can I borrow your phone?
No.
Foiled. Hey, can I have your phone?
No.
Damn! Hey, give me your phone! Victory. Was that consent?
No, that was coercion. Consent must be voluntary.
Jonathan?
Yeah?
Hey, can I borrow your phone really fast?
No.
Okay, great. How about now?
No, clearly he was incapacitated and could not give consent.
Hey, can I borrow your phone? You didn't say no. Did I get it right?
No, two negatives do not make a positive. The absence of no does not mean yes.
Hey, can I borrow your guys' phones?
Why? What do you want it for?
It's okay, don't worry about it. I'm sure it's fine, just give it to her.
Tell me I'm good.
Group phones make things complicated. Looks like the middle person was intimidated. Sorry, no go.
Look, can I just have your phone?
Yeah. Just no text or international calls.
Are you comfortable with me changing your ringtone?
As long as it's not disco.
Can I play with your game center?
No, my games are sacred to me, but you can update my software.
Shazam?
Shazam.
Oh. Tell me, please.
A conscious, voluntary decision without coercion or intimidation with clearly spoken boundaries. Congratulations.
Yes.
So that's just a cute video on kind of what consent looks like in regards to just asking somebody for their phone. So that's kind of a cool way to think about it, I think. So on the right side, you'll see another image. So consent and kind of like thinking about consent in the acronym of FRIES. So the F is for freely given. So it's not coerced, it's a choice for both of the partners. It's reversible. So a yes today can mean no tomorrow, and that's okay. And then it's informed. So each partner is feeling confident in having sex and feels prepared to do so. Enthusiastic. So again, we don't want it to feel coerced. Sure is not a yes. Instead, we want an enthusiastic and excited yes. And then specific. So each partner knows what they're doing. They're not being tricked into anything. So again, this is a good acronym. We love FRIES. Always remember that.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say about the video too, is that it's just, it can be uncomfortable to talk to our kiddos about consent and about sex. And that's why I love that Jordan found that video, because, it's a way to talk about consent without actually bringing up sex. Oh. Why it's not, oh, there we go. Okay, so now we're going to get into more, what are the unhealthy relationships that we need to look for? And so I just wanted to kind of start this part out with an actual survivor quote. So this is from a teen survivor, and this is what she said. She said, let's say I went to Taco Bell with my friends after a sporting event or something, and I didn't tell him, because, it's just not something that crosses your mind to tell your boyfriend. He would be very upset with me, and he would just accuse me of cheating on him, and he would call me like really, really mean names. So know the facts. Domestic violence is all about power and control, specifically coercive control. So I want to take a minute to talk a little bit about that. So coercive control is a pattern of controlling behaviors that create an unequal power dynamic in the relationship. And it can be very subtle. And we'll go over examples of that as we get further into this. But I just want to make some really important points. The first of all, that abuse can happen regardless of the length of the relationship or living situation. Obviously, today we're talking about teens, so they're not living together. But we really want to make that point. Somebody could be dating for a week and it could start escalating quickly. Abuse is not about size and strength. It is about a willingness to gain power and control over the other person, and anyone of any gender can be abusive or be abused. So when people think about domestic violence, they initially think about broken bones and black eyes, and that can be a part of intimate partner violence or domestic violence, but it doesn't necessarily even have to exist for it to be abuse. So we wanted to talk about some of those other ways that perpetrators use these techniques to control their partners. So obviously verbal abuse, name calling, that kind of thing, emotional and psychological abuse. A big one that we'll look further into is kind of gaslighting, like kind of convincing the person that they're crazy, that what is happening really isn't happening, and they can't trust themselves. So therefore they have to trust their partner, their perpetrator. And so it just really can spiral out of control. Technological abuse, tracking people on their phones, not allowing people to have access to their phones. Sexual abuse, once again, when we're talking about consent, a lot of times, just because somebody said yes once or said yes 10 minutes ago does not mean it's still yes. And sexual abuse can and does happen in relationships where there has been prior consent. So it's really important to be aware of that. The physical abuse, of course, we're all aware of, and then the financial abuse. So really with teens, it is not as big of an issue, but like Jordan pointed out, there can be unequal economic abuse in a teen relationship if one partner is having to pay for everything, but the other partner is saying what they need to do. And so it can be really complex, but we'll try to give you a handle on how to recognize this stuff. So first of all, whenever we're talking about intimate partner violence or domestic violence, we really need to kind of understand the cycle of abuse. So when a relationship starts, these relationships all start out with the idea of love, right? They're all intimate partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend. And they all start out great. I mean, when relationships start, especially when you're a young person, that puppy love kind of phase is a natural thing that we all experience. But unfortunately, in unhealthy and abusive relationships, what will happen is tensions are going to start to build. There's going to be a breakdown of communication. The partner that is being victimized may feel fearful, but they definitely feel like they have to placate their partner. Okay, they don't want to upset them because they can tell something's about to happen. And then the incident happens. So it can be physical. It could be a verbal argument, name calling, threats could be made, intimidation. This is often when people contact the crisis center, but we would like them to contact us before they get to that. But yeah, so and then reconciliation. So after the incident, you probably have heard of like the hearts and flowers stage. Really, the abuser is like, I am so sorry, it won't happen again. It was a one-off. Sometimes they may even minimize the abuse, like, well, it wasn't as bad as you said it was, or blame their partner. If you hadn't said this or you hadn't done such and such, I would not have, right? And so it's all forgiven. It's forgiven, and there's a period of calm, but then inevitably the tensions start building again. Okay. And so that's why at the crisis center, we talk a lot about how are you going to keep yourself safe when we get to that phase. So, yeah, I want to make a point here that these techniques can be very subtle. So this is the teen power and control wheel. So it just kind of gives an idea. Jordan had kind of gone over the equality wheel earlier, which are behaviors we want to see in relationships, right? And these behaviors that we see are signs of abusive relationship. But I kind of want to point out the subtlety of it. So, and I'm not going to read every single one of these because everybody's going to get a recording of this and you'll be able to look over these. But, you know, I'm just going to go straight to sexual coercion as far as to kind of show you the subtlety that abusers can use. So, you know, manipulating someone to having sex with them, but really more like it can be like the long game. Like, you know, you don't really, if you really loved me, you would do this for me. If you really trusted me. So it's really kind of really working on that person. It can take a while to get them to go ahead and say yes, but they don't really want to do it, right? They're being manipulated into doing it. A big thing with sexual coercion as well, especially in teens, is lying about or denying access to birth control. You know, trying to get your partner pregnant, that kind of thing. And then, you know, peer pressure. So they may tell you that they're going to out you to your friends about whatever. They can make something up and say, I'm going to tell everybody about this. And so you'll do whatever they want. They may tell lies about you, spread rumors about you, just so that they can further isolate you, so that they're the only person that you can be around and or that you want to be around and that you feel safe with. And, you know, and then like the controlling behavior, and like they'll say things like, they'll maybe want to tell their partner how to dress, right? They're not going to say, why you have to wear that blue dress. They're going to be more subtle about it. They're going to say, well, you know, I really like it when you wear that blue dress, and make lots of excuses to kind of convince you that you're making these decisions. But once again, minimizing, denying and blaming, intimidation, that's a big one. Breaking things, even a look, making jokes about violence, making threats, saying they will kill themselves if you don't date them anymore. All of these kinds of behaviors we see, and it really, it can involve anything. It's really, perpetrators can be very manipulative, and they know how to make people think that they're in control, but they're not, right? And yeah, and oh, and I said we were going to talk about gaslighting more. So, you know, with gaslighting, it really is telling someone, no, that didn't happen. And so what ends up with gaslighting is that the person that's being gaslighted actually starts to believe that they're crazy. They're like, I can't even trust myself because I'm not remembering things right. I'm not saying things right. So therefore, I have to rely on my partner even more to tell me what is reality. And yeah, once you get to that point, it can be really hard to get out. And so one thing we want to talk about when we're talking about abuse is trauma response. And this is really just for us to have a better understanding of people that have been through trauma and why they behave in some ways that we may see and go, what is going on here? So we've all heard of fight or flight, and I'm going to end on fight. So I'll start with flight. A lot of times how you see this manifest in someone that has gone through trauma is they're a workaholic. They tend to overthink. They may have anxiety issues, panic attacks, difficulty sitting still, and definitely a perfectionist, right? The fun, we see a lot of this. These are the people pleasers. They lack identity, their own personal identity. They're a part of a team. They're, a part of this friend group, but they're not just them. They have to be part of that other thing to have an identity. They don't have boundaries, so they get overwhelmed. They don't know how to say no, right? And they tend to be very codependent. And then the freeze we see quite a bit too, is that people, they have difficulty making decisions. They feel stuck and isolated. They're often depressed. They feel numb. And so they just don't do anything, they just kind of go along with the flow. And then the final one is fight. And a lot of times you'll see this type in people that are possibly more of a perpetrator, with the anger outbursts, the controlling, the bullying, the explosive behavior. And so Jordan's going to talk a bit more about this, but we want to point out these behaviors, and just so that you can understand them, that does not justify or make them healthy behaviors, right? These are just a lens to kind of look and say, okay, this person is acting this way because of this. And so it enables us to be able to reach them at a point where we can really communicate with them and understand where they're coming from. Did you have anything more, Jordan?
Yeah, so just kind of looking a little bit deeper into that. So while people experience trauma and react to it in different ways, that's still not an excuse to be abusive. It's not our partner's responsibility to kind of take care of us or to deal with our trauma responses. And there's kind of like, yes, we want to be understanding that trauma exists and people are being impacted by trauma. However, we don't have to take that on ourselves. So like I said, there's absolutely no excuse for any type of abuse, whether it's physical, verbal, emotional, or anything like that. So that's kind of what we wanted to get at mainly for this slide. So now we're going to kind of go into what red flags kind of look like. So this is just a good list of questions to consider when we might be wondering or thinking that we might be in an abusive relationship, or our teens are. And as I said before, every relationship will have unhealthy moments. It's just when those behaviors kind of become more of a pattern, then that's kind of when it becomes more abusive. So we want to look at, is our partner jealous and possessive, controlling, demanding? Are they extremely insecure? Are they abusive towards other people? Are they violent toward animals? Do they guilt their way? Or do they guilt you into getting their way? Are they blaming you for what's wrong? Do they have violent outbursts? Do they break or hit things? Do they insult or call you names? Are they constantly calling or texting or trying to check up on you? Are they demanding to know who you've been with and what you've been doing? Are they isolating you from your friends and family or threatening violence? So sorry, do you want to go back just a second?
Oh yeah, sorry, Nick, can you go back? I can't.
So I just wanted to go back to the example that I brought up earlier about me going to the movies with my friends. So I can make the decision to go to the movies with my friends without my boyfriend. And then my boyfriend might become angry. He might start calling me names and making me feel bad for not wanting to spend time with him. Then that behavior might continue for a couple of days, but really it continues every time that I want to do something without him, with other friends. And it gets to the point where it makes me so upset and I feel so bad that I eventually maybe I decide that I don't want to start a fight with him anymore. So I just tell my friends, you know what, I'm actually not going to spend time with you anymore because it's creating an issue between me and my boyfriend. And he means a lot to me. So then that's kind of an example of how the behavior that he is using is a pattern. Every single time that I want to hang out with somebody else, he gets escalated. He gets upset with me. And so that's when it kind of becomes kind of more verbally abusive. And it becomes a problem. He's isolating me from my friends, from me being me outside of him in that relationship. We can move on. So we also want to look into the technology aspect, just because we know that technology and social media is really big in all of our lives, but probably especially our teenagers. So we do want to look at red flags specific to technology. So am I constantly texting and calling with my partner? Is my partner using social media or talking with my friends to try to track my location? Do they demand to know who I'm texting or calling? Are they trying to hide my phone so that I can't use it? Are they constantly checking my phone without my permission to see who I'm talking to? Do they send me threatening text messages? Are they trying to monitor my technology? Typically, this is, I'm doing this for your safety. And then just the spreading of rumors on social media. And then going back to kind of the tracking, I know there are some apps that maybe families use. Like I think one is it Life 360, I think, where if you invite people, you can track their locations and things like that. And lots of families will do that. But just because you're not a family member doesn't mean that you can't use that app. So lots of people, specifically like teenagers, college kids, will download this app and then track each other. Sometimes it starts out obviously completely innocent, like you just want to like know where your people are at. But then it can turn into kind of abuse and constantly like needing to know where your partner is, where these people are, and checking in on them, making sure that's okay. And then we also want to touch on sexting. So the sending of inappropriate images, illegally sharing these images on the internet or to other friends. That's not okay. About 1 in 5 teens report being coerced into sexting. So again, it's not necessarily their choice, but they feel like they need to do this because they love their partner or they want their partner to like them. So they do it anyway. And then their partner ends up sharing those without the other person's consent.
Yeah. And once again, that could be really subtle too. It's not like send me a picture of you naked, right? It's, hey, if you loved me, if you really, just constant, like until they finally give in, right? Yeah, it can be pretty intense.
So we'll kind of touch on what you can look for. So kind of sudden changes in appearance, diet, or sleeping habits, failing grades or wanting to drop out, sudden changes in mood or personality, avoiding friends and family, becoming secretive or withdrawn, apologizing frequently or making excuses for their partner and their partner's behavior, constantly feeling like they need to check their cell phone and respond immediately to their partner, or becoming upset when they're unable to, because of their partner's possible reaction, and then kind of unexplained bruises, scratches, or marks. And these can kind of seem more like common behaviors in teens, but we really want to look at these things kind of in the context of a relationship, or of new people coming into their lives. So since being in the relationship, have they been watching their weight or their appearance? Do they get into fights with their partner. And when they do that, are they losing sleep? Is there a sudden shift in their moods? Or are they becoming more withdrawn and making more excuses for their partner? Are they constantly kind of feeling anxious or on the edge? If they're apart from their partner, because they kind of feel that need to accommodate their partner or be there for their partner when their partner needs them or wants them.
So the consequences of teen dating violence are significant. So they're more likely to experience depression and anxiety. They're more likely to engage in unhealthy behaviors like smoking, using drugs and alcohol. They may exhibit antisocial behaviors like lying, theft, bullying, or hitting. And they're more likely to think about suicide. And that's one thing I wanted to bring up too with like the theft is, and when I forgot to mention it earlier on the power and control wheel, but sometimes they'll have their partner steal, shoplift, or do something like that. They'll pressure them into doing it, and then they can hold it over their head. I'm going to tell everyone that you're a thief or that kind of stuff. So just wanted to point that out. So, but obviously, if you're in a violent relationship as a teenager, it just sets the stage for future problems. So without intervention, these teens go on to either become trapped in a cycle of victimization for their entire lives or to become perpetrators. So people that experience dating violence in high school are likely more at higher risk to experience it in college and throughout their life. And I'm sorry, Jordan, I think I took your slide. Sorry. So how to help. It's never too early to start teaching your children about self-respect, because that's really what healthy dating starts with, right? Is self-respect and self-love. So start talking about healthy relationships before they're even old enough to date, and then, listen and give them support. Show concern for your children, but avoid ultimatums. So that's just going to shut off the conversation right away. Be supportive, but non-accusatory. Believe your child. That's a tough one. Believe your child, even if what they tell you is hard to hear. Let your child know that you're concerned for their safety. And this one's important too. Focus on the behaviors, not the person involved. So it's really easy to say, that Johnny's no good. I told you he's no good. He's just not a good guy for you. You shouldn't be dating him. Instead, I noticed that Johnny did this or said this. Focus on what they did that was crossing a line instead of who the person was, right? Because when people are in love, they don't want to hear anything negative about their partner. So you're going to just cut off that conversation. And of course, understand the dynamics of relationships. As we went over that relationship spectrum, not all relationships are all healthy all the time. But we don't want them falling into abuse. So just recognize and understand what those dynamics are and know what the resources are that are available. I'll let you take this one, Jordan.
Oh, okay. So we want to kind of further reassure them that their partner's behavior is not their fault, and that no one deserves to experience abuse. And then we also want to ask them what next steps they'd like to take, and help them find support in doing so. So sometimes our teens might not want to have these conversations with us. We're the last people they want to talk to. So then understanding that and accepting that, and then helping them find appropriate resources to be able to talk through these things and get the support that they need. And then lastly, a big one is to just remember that your child may still have feelings for the person that they're saying that their abusive partner. So just because someone's being abused does not mean that the switch flips, there we go. And that they can just turn off their feelings. and they can just kind of accept that they're being abused and that they don't deserve it and then walk away from it. So by continuing to kind of speak badly about their partner, it could essentially discourage them from wanting to continue talking with you, because you obviously don't understand. They love this person. How could this person, or how could they not be in love with this person, you know? So if you kind of force the decision for them, they might feel even more isolated and then not want to find support, not want to go to you for support. Instead, they're going to stay exactly where they are. And we definitely want to be able to create a space where they do feel like they can talk with us and that they can feel support from us, or know that we can help them find that support outside of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you do this, you're really just playing into the perpetrator's hands and helping them to isolate their partner. Yeah, so you really want them to feel safe talking to you. Yeah, so things you can say. You can say, I'm worried about you. Does it bother you or scare you when they do that? Do you ever feel afraid of them? You know, you shouldn't have to be afraid. It seems like they won't let you do anything on your own. Have you thought about a safety plan? You deserve to be treated well. Would it help to tell you whatever, do whatever? Every family's different. And I'm here to support you no matter what you decide. That's really important. The person needs to know that they're the ones making the decision to leave the relationship and not somebody else is forcing that on them.
And then here are just kind of a couple of examples of some things that we might not want to say when having these discussions. Being or saying, why don't you leave? Why would you go back to them? Why do you let them treat you like that? Your partner's a loser, a bad person, they're no good. They don't love you, or else they wouldn't treat you like this. And then avoiding saying you should, if I were you, or you need to. And we've told you a million times that they're no good for you. We want to kind of avoid feeling the judge or putting the judgment on them. We want them to know that they don't deserve the abuse and that you're listening to them and you support them.
Yeah. So, and before I get into this, I just want to say how important it is for parents to understand that in a violent relationship, it's complicated, and it takes an average of 7 times for someone to leave an abusive relationship. This does not exclude teenagers, right? A lot of times they're not going to tell you what's going on. So you really need to set up a relationship where your kids feel comfortable talking to you. But even if they don't, remember that in the state of Colorado, the legal age of consent is 12 years old. So that means that anyone 12 or older can get services without their parents' consent. And the one good thing that came out of COVID, right, was telehealth. So that really helped with access for these younger kiddos, because obviously a 12-year-old can't drive themselves to therapy, right? But they can pick up the phone and call the crisis line, and they can get services. So it's just really important to know that. So there are a lot of resources out there for parents of teens and how to talk to them about dating and healthy dating and how to help them if they end up in an unhealthy or abusive relationship. So this is being recorded and this is going to be sent out to everyone. So you'll be able to click on these links and look at these websites. But a couple of them that I really like are Break the Cycle and Love is Respect. It's a really great one for teens. That's really kind of geared to teenagers. So I would tell my teen, if you have any questions about dating, check out this website. Of course, there's the National Domestic Violence Hotline, Centers for Victims of Crime, and the Dating Abuse Helpline. And of course, there's a crisis center. So we exist to end domestic violence through advocacy, education, and prevention, while helping communities live free of violence. So all our services are confidential and free of charge. So, have our crisis line number available. We're here not just for people in crisis. We're here if you have questions about a friend, a family member, your child potentially being in an unhealthy relationship. Give us a call and we're going to help you navigate that. And if appropriate, get your child into services. So once again, our 24-hour crisis line, we have emergency shelter services for those in imminent danger, individual and group therapy. So anyone that goes through our services has access to support groups as well. Legal advocacy, community-based advocacy, and of course, outreach, education, and prevention activities. And in 2022, we served 390 unduplicated adults and children. 26% of those utilized more than one of our services. So I always say, if you don't know about a resource, you can't access it. So have that crisis line number handy. You don't know who you're going to run into in life that might need that information. Okay, so yeah, so that's really our presentation for today. We wanted to give some space for any questions or comments, any kind of reflection that you might have. Yeah, so let us know if you have any questions or if we can clarify anything. It's messy, it's complex. Human beings are messy, and every situation is different. So when in doubt, and one thing I always like to say to people in relationships, if it doesn't feel good, it might be abuse, right? So keep that in mind. Yeah. Was there anything? Thank you, Amy. Was there anything in the chat? Any questions, Nick?
Nope, I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'll let anybody jump on and ask questions. But I just want to say real quickly, thank you, Sabrina and Jordan, and our awesome partners at the Crisis Center for providing this presentation. So we'll make sure to send out the slides and the video once it's uploaded. But yeah, again, if anybody's got any questions, feel free to unmute yourself. We've got a little bit of time here to do that.
Yeah, no, I see Drew, Drew made the point that a lot of times that people that are bullying are people that have come from these types of environments. I mean, it does intersect quite a bit, and to that point, domestic violence kind of intersects with a lot it's going to lead to more family violence. It's going to lead to violence outside of the family, right? Like bullying and those kinds of things. So it's really, really important. It's a societal problem for sure. And if we can get to families and help families have healthier relationships and healthier dynamics, then we can help with a lot of other stuff too, right, Drew? When you see a kid that's acting out, like we were talking in the trauma response in that fight, they likely have learned that behavior, right? And so it goes back to the house. But if people don't know that it's wrong or can't accept it, that's just the only way they know. We got to teach people better, right? They don't know they need to change if you don't know what you don't know. And if you grew up in a dysfunctional home like that, unless there's some sort of intervention, you're going to continue that cycle. So that's why it's really important to educate people, try to intervene in those families and get them safe and healthy, so everyone around them can be safe and healthy as well. Yeah. Awesome. Anything else? Awesome. Thank you guys for your feedback. I really appreciate it. And Jordan and I just, I don't mean to speak for you, Jordan, but I know I really appreciate this opportunity just to educate people, and hopefully you can go back and have some great conversations with your kids. And if there's still a little, like I said, just talking about self-respect and consent. A good one is, when I was growing up, I was always told, go hug grandma or hug Aunt Sue or whoever it was, right? And nowadays we're saying, would you like to hug your grandmother, right? Because it's not like they have ownership in their own body of whether they want to hug someone or not. And that's planting those seeds of consent at a really young age. But it's really important that people know they have ownership over their own bodies and lives. Awesome. All right. Well, we're 9 minutes early. I hope that's not too early. Thank you, Drew. I appreciate you. Yeah, so once again, I'm the development coordinator and Jordan as our client navigator. You can reach the crisis line 24/7 at 303-688-8484. Go to our website at thecrisiscenter.org to get any information you want, but really follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on all the social media, because that's how you're going to keep up with like our fun third-party events that we do and different education events throughout the year, as well as different fun ways to support the Crisis Center. Once again, all our services are free, and about 78% of our donations go directly to services. So we try to do a great job of being good stewards of your donor dollars and making sure that every dollar has an impact on those that we serve. Yeah, and I think that's it. There's one more slide, I think, and like I said, you'll get a copy of this. So you can click on that stuff and kind of look at those further. Jen's story that I took the quote from, I would really recommend reading that. It's pretty compelling. So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And if you ever have any questions about anything, but feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to Jordan or just to call the crisis line. That's why we're there, to help you. Wonderful. I appreciate everyone who came.
Thank you
And
again,
like I said,
Sabrina
we
and
will
Jordan.
have a recording for you, okay?
Yep. Thank you again, Sabrina and Jordan.
Thank
Very much
you.
for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.